Hi, I'm Easy Schmidt, and today I'm going to be addressing a controversial topic that has been airing for a number of years and is generally frowned upon, called cultural appropriation. The idea of cultural appropriation is where a group of people takes or borrows something from another group of people and uses it as their own. I shall start off by giving an example of cultural appropriation by playing 4 bars of a familiar tune. Many of you probably recognize that tune as Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven. But that tune actually comes from a Baroque song that is over 300 years old, 359 years old to be exact. And that Baroque piece was written by a gentleman named Giovanni Battista Granata. I'm sure he would have enjoyed Led Zeppelin's royalties. As far as cultural appropriation music, I will be talking about the Baroque era. The Baroque era is the foundational base of all Western music today, be it country, metal, rock, hip-hop, jazz, blues, etc. If you listen to Western-based music, be it downloaded or live or on the radio, that song sits on the very foundation of the Baroque era. I mean, of course, that's mainly as far as Western music goes. I mean, like, if you're talking about traditional Japanese music or Iranian folk music or indigenous music, those have very little to no connection to Baroque music. So let's start from the very origins of the Baroque era. Or as Julie Andrews put it famously in The Sound of Music, let's start from the very beginning. What is Baroque? The Baroque era, if you may recall in your history classes, is a period of time, especially in regards to music, that lasted from 1600 to 1750. So it began around the latter end of the Renaissance period, and the last 85 years of the Baroque era took place during the Enlightenment. And sadly, the Baroque era came to a tragic end at the death of mega rock star Johann Sebastian Bach. Tears. And both the Enlightenment and the Renaissance were both eras in which European culture and the European peoples, in thoughts and in music, were striving forward, away from the Dark Middle Ages, and into free thought. So the Baroque era gave us a number of different aspects in music that we use today, and is the greatest influence in most, if not all, of modern Western musicians today. What the Baroque era gave us were major and minor tonalities. For example, major sounds something like kind of has a brighter, happier sound to it, as opposed to minor, which sounds something like has a more darker, more melancholy, sad feel to it. That's something crucial that the Baroque era gave us. As well as, it was the first era of music that actually allowed or accepted dissonance. For those of you who don't know what dissonance is, it's basically 2 or more notes played together that have kind of a clashy sound to it, such as or, for example. In fact, in Granata's Baroque composition, more commonly known as Stairway to Heaven, actually has some dissonance in it in the intro, such as, like when you play the second chord, when played together it sounds like, and you can hear the dissonance between and. Kind of sounds dissonant, right? It essentially was a primitive jazz chord. In fact, many jazz artists themselves, such as Bill Evans, would quote Baroque artists such as Bach as being their biggest influences. And the Baroque era also gave us a sense of bass line with chords, or like a melody with a walking bass line. For example, in George Frederick Handel's Gavotte, it sounded something like. Or if you like it played faster. If you noticed in my left hand I was playing a walking bass line. And in my previous video, too, the most crucial ending phrase in the bass line, even in that line alone, has one instant of dissonance in it. For example, when I went to the part where it goes. If you notice, I played F and B at the same time. You hear the clash? So those are some of the important elements of music that the Baroque era gave modern music today. And about a bass line with chords too, which was what also the Baroque era gave us. And just about any kind of modern music is composed of a bass line with chords, walking bass line with chords. So a chord is 3 or more notes played together at once, like. Or if you like going for jazz chords, or. And in music such as rock, metal, country, jazz, hip-hop, blues, they all have walking bass lines with chords in them. And one Baroque composer in particular, who I mentioned earlier, Johann Sebastian Bach, also gave us the tempered scale, or the chromatic scale. What the tempered scale was a scale in which consisting of 12 notes within an octave that are each evenly spaced out, that are each the same distance from each other, in the same way that the rungs of a ladder are all the same distance from each other. Here's what it is. This tempered scale was very crucial because it allowed us to change keys or to transpose a song into a different key without having to just open up the piano lid and then just pull out a pair of pliers and just retune every single note, every single string to a different tuning. Before the Baroque era and before Johann Sebastian Bach in particular, that's exactly what musicians during the Renaissance period would do, because they did not have the tempered scale and therefore they could not transpose into different keys without changing the distance of the intervals of the desired scale or mode. Because before, the only other alternative to that was to just play in a different mode, which would have a different feel to it. In fact, music from the Baroque era can still be heard in modern music today. For example, a lot of pop artists today, in rock, bebop, jazz, like I mentioned earlier, Bill Evans, one of the most iconic jazz chord players. Juicy. They would often write Bach and Vivaldi as their influences. In fact, a song by the Toys called Lover's Concerto
with their melody of peace, baby on the hill, the bright colors of the rainbow, some magic from above, made this day for us.
That was Lover's Concerto by the Toys, and the melody of that song, note for note, comes from a Baroque piece by Johann Sebastian Bach called Minuet in G major. The only main differences between that song and Bach's Minuet in G major was that the Toys actually sang that song in C major, but then later modulated and changed keys to C sharp and then to D, etc. They kept going up and up on the scale, higher into higher keys. And also the rhythm too was different. Minuet in G major by Bach, by Johann Sebastian Bach, I should say, was written in 3/4, whilst Lover's Concerto by the Toys was written in 4/4. Another great example for Baroque music that is found in modern music is by that of well-known rock star and virtuoso metal guitarist Yngwie Malmsteen. He's the master of sweep picking, all kinds of shredderific arpeggios. All of his, or not all of, many of his sweep picking arpeggios come from a lot of Vivaldi and Bach's Baroque runs. And hey, just a little disclaimer too to throw out. I'm not insulting Led Zeppelin or the Toys or Bill Evans or Yngwie Malmsteen or any of those people. I love their music very much. I really enjoy them. In fact, I actually praise them for their cultural appropriation, because it actually shows that they really study those musicians and want to learn under their expertise, particularly Bach. So what I'm basically saying is that when people talk smack about groups of people or individuals committing the atrocious crime of cultural appropriation, every single human endeavor that we know today is built upon or influenced by something that has preceded it. If there was no true cultural appropriation, if we truly were to be freed of cultural appropriation, practically nothing would exist. So the next time you do listen to a Western-based song, just remember, without the Baroque era, that song would not exist. And once again, thanks all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. And if you enjoyed this video, please give this video a thumbs up. Leave a comment below, subscribe if you're new. So until the next time a 21st century pop artist goes Control-C, Control-V on a great masterpiece written by a Baroque composer, I'll see you then.